Hey, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on, Chip? What's going on, everybody out there in the On the Chain community? XRPL without XRP. How about that? Explore all those new possibilities, all those new projects, a lot of stuff going on here. There's stuff that we wanted to cover yesterday. We didn't get to yesterday. We're going to talk about today. We are going to reference the John Deaton campaign. Some updates there. Want to see what's going on. What is it like for John Deaton to take on Elizabeth Warren? When is she going down? When does she get replaced? We can't wait. She's so bad for the crypto space. Thank God for John Deaton. So, Chip, if you're ready to kick this thing off,
let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Welcome, legendary one viewer who's watching. Hello, one viewer who's
Everybody's
watching.
Piling in. Where's our Twitter?
There we go. Crypto G. Kick it. Can I kick it? Yes, I can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Man, was Tribe Called Quest one of the best ever? Can I kick it? Yeah, I can kick it. I was having a discussion with a buddy of mine who, I don't know, he's not open to, he does not like any kind of rap at all. I was trying to educate him, and
it's not even possible.
He wasn't open. Whether it was new, whether it was old, nothing. It was just like flat out no.
Nothing.
He said it wasn't music. I said, well, it is music. Says it wasn't musicians. I'm like, maybe not in a traditional sense, but there's skill involved. So there you go. There you have it. What's up, SP? Crypto G, legendary. So yeah, I think what we'll do is wait for a couple more folks to pile in here, then we'll kick off the video. Kick that. I'm kicking it right there.
I'm excited about everything going on with John Deaton. I'm excited to see the positivity that, coming out of media over there in Massachusetts, I think is really cool. Just looking at some of the updates there, but man, it's amazing to see the pushback that some of those power players in the administration right now are getting, namely like a Gary Gensler. But then there's also, I was watching Kennedy talking to some of the heads of the FDIC, and, and, it's just interesting, to see, they obviously have there was a video. He's talking about the problems that are decades long within the FDIC. And the guy that he was talking to was like, oh yeah, we're going to fix it. And he goes, but you've been there for like 20 years. And he goes, do you believe in Bigfoot too? It was just really funny.
I believe in the Yetis, Jeff. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, you got to believe in the Yetis.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Kennedy. They focus on the only thing that he opposes in Biden. What 97% of the rest of the stuff is on par or kookier. Like if you think Biden's climate stuff is kooky, wait till you check out Kennedy's. Like he's nutty. He's left of the leftists on half of the stuff. But he just, and this is what happens, like during campaigns, they run to the center and they say this and they say that. It's 4-year cycle, 6-year cycle, 2-year cycle. We're going to come around and give you the parrot the same old talking points, and then we'll see you in 2 years, right?
There you go.
Yeah, well,
he's trying to. It's an election year.
It's well, right, right. But SB 121, that's the SEC one. So it's like, yeah, of course you vote against it because it's going to be vetoed. It's a safe bet.
Well, that's a really solid point. He votes against it and gets some brownie points, hopefully from the crypto space, knowing that gets to Biden's desk and he vetoes it. And that's what we were talking about yesterday.
And he says he was tough on Al. I was absolutely for it. Look, any of the Dems know that it's getting repealed. And any of the talking heads out there, it's like, listen, if they say they're going to veto it, nothing's going to change. So you hooting and hurrahing about this stuff. And these are like well-known people, okay? As a matter of fact, Stu Alderati, chief legal counsel over at, he says, finally nonpartisan. But what does it matter? If before you even vote on the bill, you have Biden saying he's going to veto it, it's inevitable what's going to happen. we had all this bipartisan support. Yeah, a bunch of Dems jumped in there in tough election cycles, and they voted for it. And they can say, we are so pro-crypto until the election's over. So, I mean, this is typical politics that comes up in an election cycle. Come on. Come on, people. We should know better than that.
Right.
I'm not surprised by anything.
Nothing.
I don't think all of them do. I only think some of them. I have a lot of questions about it personally. And then I was talking to Matt Hamilton again. And he was like, I was saying, well, I don't trust NASA. And he goes, and then he sent me a link where Trump wanted $25 billion for funding. I'm like, I don't care what he wanted. I'm like, they're spending $69,589,000 a day. For what? Tell me where that money's going. Tell me what we get out of it. We're not going to a moon. We're not going to outer space. We're not doing anything. And then on top of it, they use Tesla. So what do we actually, what's actually NASA up to? What have they been getting?
They just launched a
$69 million a day, Jeff. Please.
What did they just launch?
I'm like, oh, here's what you see. Yay. Okay, good. Appreciate that, man. I think that's good stuff. Blue and green team. Yes. Blue and green. El Jefe says maybe Biden's being told these votes won't veto. No, it's getting vetoed. And, just remember this right here, guys. Just remember this. This is it. Never interrupt your enemy when they're in the process of destroying themselves. You sit back, you get the popcorn ready, and you just eat it and you watch it. Because if you could have a disaster in process, that's the entire administration or whoever's pulling the strings. We don't actually believe it's Mr. Biden, but
you've got NASA's Boeing Starliner crewed flight test May 25th. It's coming up.
And why are we doing? What's that for, Jeff?
No, it's a crew flight test. But then you've got SpaceX Falcon Heavy is going up in June, and then again in October. You've got the SpaceX Falcon Heavy Europa Clipper.
Right, and that one they sent to the moon.
A couple of them.
Now, explain to me how technology in 1969 could get there sooner than the technology from 2024. And then a manned mission will take even longer than the rinky-dink taped together sort of module they have. Did they go to space? I believe they did. Now, if you remember the Japanese when the Japanese supposedly sent a craft to the moon, they had the worst graphics, number one, which was sad enough. But apparently in 1969, we could send back images, even though we didn't have the technology to do so. But let's just suppose we did.
Just wondering how they were sending
2024, we don't have any these recent lunar landers landing on the moon. We're not able to send out back visuals of that. No, we got to rely on some goofy graphic of a cutout ship that's supposed to land on the moon. I don't know. It's a little sus to me, Jeff. I'll be honest with you. It's a little bit. I just have questions. It's weird. Yeah. A lot of questions. All right, let's get into the Deaton thing. I think we should talk a little bit about John Deaton here. Let's start it off with his video that he released when he went down to Yuma, Arizona. I think it's worth playing. It's a good video. And I got the wrong screen on here. Let me do this video. Here we go. Let's look at this campaign video. John Deaton.
There you go.
I'm John Deaton, and I'm running for United States Senate. I'm here at the United States-Mexico border in Yuma, Arizona. As a young Marine officer, I served 3 years at the Marine Air Station not far from where I'm standing. But today, things look very different. Thanks to the failed policies and partisanship of career politicians like Elizabeth Warren, every state is now a border state. And Massachusetts is suffering the consequences. Hundreds of migrants overwhelm our border every day right where I'm standing. Nearly 12 million over the last 3 years. Our healthcare system and social service agencies are breaking under the weight of this crisis. Chinese fentanyl floods our country through this border and into Massachusetts, where people are struggling with drug addiction. Our veterans and our most vulnerable residents are losing the amenities they rely on while costing our taxpayers billions of dollars. Many migrants, simply seeking a better life, are the victims of horrific crimes at the hands of the cartels. There are no winners under Elizabeth Warren's failed policies. In the Senate, I'll fight to secure our border and restore common sense to Washington, D.C. I'll support our Border Patrol and law enforcement to keep our nation and Massachusetts communities safe. I'm John Deaton, and I approve this message because our state and our country are worth protecting.
Well, there you go. What do you think about that?
And that was solid. So that, really, I like the background music. Kind of get that, nice Western twang. It's down there on the border. It's amazing that sitting politicians right now that haven't been down there or said they were down there, it took years to go down there, and yet you have you have the administration currently, the resident and the rest that have allowed these 12 million illegals to enter this country. And number one that we've heard from Trump and Deaton and a lot of them, it's like you gotta hold every one of them accountable. You gotta uphold the rule of law. And so that's definitely a solid narrative. Uphold the rule of law, and then here you go, John Deaton. You want to support John Deaton? Go to johndeatonforsenate.com. Lot to do
Drop the
over
link.
there. Lot to support. And
Drop
it's
the
just
link.
never give up. No fear. No fear.
Drop the link.
It's one of the videos.
There you go. Drop the link. So this is one he put up on May 17th, which is 2 days ago. Let's take a look at this one. Let's see. Is this the right one? No. What the heck?
But there's a lot of conversation over the Iranian president and foreign minister.
Yeah, we'll talk
down
about
in the
that too.
helicopter crash. Go down.
Yeah.
It's John
the other
D.
one.
I saw a post by Senator Warren that bragged about how much better the economy's getting. And I was trying to figure out who she was talking about. And then I read her last bill and I realized it's the bankers. She's become the #1 banking lobbyist in the United States of America, the same person who promised to go hold the bankers accountable. Go to johndeatonforsenate.com if you want to clean up Washington.
Just very short and succinct message right there.
That's right.
Very short and succinct right there. Hit that button, Pookie says. Hit the button. Hit it. Yeah. This is amazing. Like nobody knows. First it was a hard landing. Then it was weather related. Then so they put the president and the entire cabinet on a helicopter, and then it's missing.
Yeah.
This sounds a little bit. I'm sure there's nothing suspicious there at all.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see, man. It sounds perfectly normal, right? I mean, and it's been
It
hours.
just crashed.
And how many search parties they said, Jeff?
No
40?
updates.
How many search
There were
parties?
40.
40 search parties, and they don't know where it is.
Yeah, and there's different types of super mysterious. Nobody seems to really know. Let's see what Al Jazeera has to say about that. Say it's like an hour ago, still missing. That was an hour ago.
So how do they know the hard landing if they can't find the helicopter? Then I saw somebody posted Helicopter was the pilot. I'm like, Helicopter?
Helicopter.
Eli Copter with a K. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, now you're gaslighting. It's okay. It's like I was like, all right, this is getting pretty weird. Nobody really knows. I want to play this. Crypto Eddie found this bit. This was aired on local, I think Boston affiliate station. But it's a good interview with John Deaton, and this is the kind of exposure that he needs. Now, if you know the two people that are doing the interview, they're leftists. Number one, okay, so they're not there to do John any favors, but they asked some good questions. They had some good follow-up questions. It's a decent interview. I think we should listen to it, and also. Kudos to Crypto Eddie for finding it. Let's listen in here, and then we'll talk about it.
In Massachusetts, there will also be several ballot questions and a U.S. Senate contest.
And one candidate running to take on Democratic incumbent Senator Elizabeth Warren is joining us now. That's John Deaton, a retired Marine officer, a cancer survivor, and an attorney who has represented cancer and asbestos victims. John, thanks so much for coming in studio. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Of course. So let's talk a little bit about why you're running in the first place. You're taking on one of the most well-known senators in the country, and obviously you just moved here from Rhode Island. What brings you to Massachusetts, and why do you want to run for Senate?
Well, first, I have deep connections to Massachusetts. In fact, not only did I graduate law school at New England School of Law in Boston, lived in Roxbury, East Boston, and Malden, I was chosen by the Marine Corps to represent the Commonwealth for the 1994 Judge Advocate Law contract. I couldn't get into Harvard or pay for Harvard, but I beat Harvard students, BC, BU, and Suffolk Law. So I'm very proud of that. And since then, for 22 years, I've represented, as you said, asbestos victims fighting major corporations and insurance companies across the Commonwealth. Dozens and dozens of working families. We're talking plumbers, iron workers, shipyard workers, IBEW electricians, carpenters, auto mechanics. So for 22 years, I've been sitting literally at the kitchen table of working families across the Commonwealth discussing the issues of importance. So I believe my Massachusetts credentials stack up against anyone.
In terms of just why you're running then, what brought...
So that's a good one, Jeff. Let's break that one down. So they throw the first one, right? That offhanded remark. You just moved from Rhode Island. And John Deaton, being as astute as he is, breaks it down, doesn't let it slide. And he addresses it right out of the gate, right? So it's kind of a good thing because you want to get that one out. Of course, people are going to have questions about it, like, oh, wait a minute, are you a carpetbagger? Well, the biggest one we know of is called Hillary Clinton, who spent about 6 hours in New York before she was running for senator. Right. And then mysteriously, John Jr. Kennedy goes down in an airplane tragedy with his wife, and then all of a sudden he was the favorite, and all of a sudden, boom, it's just going to be Clinton. How about that?
How about that?
I'm not saying it's a coincidence or anything. I'm just saying it's awful interesting.
Well, the other thing is people seem to, they try to make it sound like Rhode Island is so far away from people work in Massachusetts, live in Rhode Island, live in Massachusetts, work in Rhode Island. It's not like it's right there. It's, it might as well just, be part and parcel.
When my brother lived in Rhode Island, I flew into Mass.
You land in Boston, fly into Providence.
Right.
Providence
is a small airport, so it was easier just to fly in there, and you drive. It's like 45 minutes, not even where he lived, but it's closer to the border.
Exactly. But the point being, for them, obviously you have to live in the state, so you had to move. It's like, you're moving from one town to the next. Granted, different state, but it was an important move. But I like how he unpacked it. He's highly connected to the area, to Massachusetts, and he's been there for a long time. So that's the point.
Yeah, very good. Let's listen next.
You're running then. What brought you to want to get into politics? What do you think you can change?
That's a great question. And the answer is I felt compelled to do it because I am the American dream. And if you've read my book, you're going to have to agree. I am the living embodiment of the American dream. And I'm sitting back and I'm watching that dream die before my eyes. And I wonder, can a kid in Springfield or Brockton or Roxbury, would they have the same opportunities that I had? And when you look at all the problems we face, illegal immigration out of control, debt crisis, 40% of Americans don't have $500 in case of an emergency, the government's debt, 1 trillion personal credit card debt, opioid addictions, foreign wars, all these things are happening, but the greatest crisis we face in this country is a crisis of leadership because career politicians like Senator Warren are sitting in Washington, D.C., and they're fueling division, pitting American versus American, and I want to do something about it. I want to show the voters a nonpartisan choice who's been a Republican, a Democrat, and an unenrolled voter in his life, and is going to just go do the job. Elizabeth Warren wants to desperately keep the job. I want to go do it.
She's only...
Oh, I like that. She wants to keep the job. I want to do the job. I love that.
She's desperate to keep the job. So for her, it's all about, power and this endless wealth that she's, trying to generate. And for him, it's a different objective.
Yeah, and if you just spend a little time, like just 1 week of Warren's X feed, she nonstop complains about everything. But like, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. This is a disgrace. I can't believe this. Everything's a straw man argument. You are the senator. And then the other day she was complaining that judges should not be able to buy stocks because, well, I mean, they can recuse themselves, but because if they're personally involved in a case where there's a stock that they may own one in. And I'm like, I just replied to her and said, people in Congress shouldn't own stocks. So go ahead, draft the bill. We'll wait.
Right.
Draft it. Why? She complains about this. She complains about that. Most of the time, it's American companies. This company's doing something wrong, and meanwhile, these companies are just trying to stay alive. Now, if they're going off the rails, there's enough government regulation. Someone's going to come after them. But she complains. She bitches. She doesn't lift a finger. But she's there telling you all about all the bad things that are happening. There's never anything good happening. What she was excited about was, they decriminalize marijuana. Okay, how's that going to help somebody put food on the table, right? And paid off student loans. It sounds like they're buying votes here. It's like you paid off student loans after the Supreme Court already struck down your loan forgiveness. So how well do you think that's going to go over when that comes back around again, Jeff?
Right, exactly.
It's incredible. Let's listen in for the next question here.
Only had 2 terms, though, at this point. You said she's a career, lifelong politician. So what does she...
Listen, he's mincing his words. He made a global statement about politicians, and then she's only had 2 terms. Why are you saying it's 2 terms, 12 years?
Missed, I guess, in those first 2 terms that you think she should have been doing over the course of that time?
Well, first of all, I support term limits because I believe if you can't effectuate change in more than a decade in Washington, D.C., then you lack the skill set to do it. Move over and give someone else an opportunity to do it. But here's an example. Senator Warren is the best or worst example, how you phrase it, of what happens in Washington, D.C. 12 years ago, she pounded the table that she was outraged that no banker went to prison from the 2008 financial crisis, and she was going to Washington, D.C. to hold the bankers accountable. Who do you think wrote her last bill? The banking industry led by Jamie Dimon. That's what happens. She didn't have the skill set to beat him, so she joined him. I'm going to go to D.C. and offer a different option.
Now watch. Bring in the spin doctor here, okay? Bring in the spin doctor. What do you think she's going to come in with?
Well, it's perfect how John Deaton comes back, and he's there as the other option. He's there for the positive option. He's there for the people. Completely different approach. They're obviously going to take her side in it.
Yeah, well, here we go. Here comes spin doctor.
Someone might argue that if you are going to have a bill written that's going to impact a lot of different industries, you might want to have people from that industry involved in writing the bill. In Massachusetts and Boston around housing, the BRA, the Boston Development, they have real estate agents and developers involved. Would you say that no one that has expertise should be involved in writing a bill?
Not at all. There's a difference between seeking input and saying write the bill that favors your industry, and that's exactly what's happened recently. And so, of course, you seek the advice and input of experts in the field, but you don't let an industry write the bill and then hand it to you and you stamp your approval. Make no mistake about it, Senator Elizabeth Warren is right now the biggest lobbyist for the banking industry in the country.
So we're here in Massachusetts, where the largest group of voters are the unaffiliated, unenrolled voters that are not necessarily total Republicans or total Democrats. We've had a number of Republican governors over the years with a controlled state house of Democrats. So the question I imagine a number of voters will have for you is, A, what kind of Republican are you? And who are your Republican role models?
Oh, it's a great question. First, let me just say, I don't think there's anyone quite like me that has the life experience that I've had in the Senate, who's overcome poverty and who literally represents regular people and identifies with regular working people and poor people. I'm a small government, fiscally conservative, socially moderate Republican. If you force me to choose a Republican that is sort of like me, it would be Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, of that centrist, fiscally conservative Republican who is more of a common sense approach and a nonpartisan approach. And that's what I bring. The difference between me and Elizabeth Warren, and there are quite a few differences, is that I'm not going to be loyal to a party or a person. I'm going to be loyal to one thing. I have one test. Is it good for Massachusetts and America? If it is, call it a Democrat proposal, I'm all in. Call it a Republican proposal, I'm all in. That's the test, not a political agenda or not a person or party.
Circling back to what you were saying about Senator Elizabeth Warren and some of the bills that she's written, are you saying that she's a tool of the banking industry? I mean, do you think that's a fair criticism based on her?
Tool of the banking industry.
She's a tool. Let's just stop at a tool, okay?
Do you think she's a tool of the bank? You know, it's interesting how they come out, what kind of Republican. And it's always an underhanded kind of a comment, right? Because as the media, their objective is to try to undermine and disparage anybody that might try to align themselves or support Trump, who by far has more support than any other candidate ever in history. And it's super, it's galvanizing the country together when you see what Trump is going to be able to accomplish. But yet the media still this underhanded objective, to try to put him and disparage Deaton and to try to create some sort of a rift. But it's interesting, Chip, what they say in Massachusetts because of the balance, the way things are in Massachusetts. They're not very polarized, left or right, Democrat, Republican. There's Massachusetts kind of even, kind of stands out, I think, a little bit uniquely in the country because of that.
Sure, for sure. And they're trying to nail him.
That's what
And
Alchemist thinks. An
yeah,
important question that helps him. And the way he answered it, I think what he's answered it really, really well. I'm just saying what their agenda is, their intent, and then the way he answers it.
yeah, I thought it was very clever the way he answered it too. And he didn't go
Yeah,
right into their question. He defined himself first and that there
right.
were
Yep.
differences, but he did get around to the question. Most politicians wouldn't even answer the question and they would just follow it up with a question. Then
Right.
they might sort of throw something out there. So it's good. This is why he's very well versed. And I would imagine having that, having worked in the capacity he has as a federal prosecutor, you're expecting sort of those counter arguments to come back, counter questions. He's really well versed to answer them, and he's very comfortable answering them on this in this interview.
Yeah.
Record?
I think it is today. I think 12 years a political agenda.
Senator Elizabeth Warren, some of the bills that she's written, are you saying that she's a tool of the banking industry? I mean, do you think that's a fair criticism based on her record?
I think it is today. I think 12 years ago, let me give Senator Warren the benefit of the doubt. I believe Senator Warren, when she first was running, she meant the things that she was saying, that she was going to go to Washington, she was going to hold those bankers accountable and all of those things. That's why I favor term limits. At some point, you become part of the problem. And when a decade later, the people you were going to hold accountable write the bill and you just sign it, that is a problem. And that's something that needs to change. And that's why we need term limits. And term limits are amazing because they don't discriminate. Republican, Democrat, Independent, doesn't matter. You get your 12 years if you're a senator to effectuate change. And if you don't have the skill set, let someone like me who does have the skill set do it.
Let's go to another topic here as well. We wanted to talk about the southern border, of course, immigration, a huge topic. I believe you went to the border recently and got to see a little bit of what's going on down there. I wonder just what your impressions were of what you saw in the specific spot you went to.
Well, I was familiar with the spot that I went to because prior to going to the border, I was in the Marine Corps and I served in Yuma, Arizona at Marine Corps Air Station. I was the chief prosecutor for the base and it actually had coordinated with Border Patrol, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, drug infiltration into America, and I was involved in some of those sort of undercover sting operations. But what amazed me is that 25 years later, it is far worse than it was when I was involved in fighting the drug distribution. And I would encourage anyone that's running for office or someone more important like Senator Warren who's in office to do what I did. Go to the border because you will truly appreciate it. If you experience what I experienced, you would come back and you would have an appreciation for two things. that we have a national security crisis and we have a humanitarian crisis, because you can't leave that border without having amazingly deep sympathy for these migrants and what they're going through, and this false promise that they've been promised where they pay the cartel everything they own. And there's drug trafficking, there's sex trafficking, there's child trafficking, and partisan politics is getting in the way of that. And I think that if you go see the root of the cause, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you'll come back. I think Senator Warren, if she'd have went to the border like I did before that bill, she wouldn't have voted no for the immigration reform bill. She'd have voted yes, because at least it would have been better than the status quo.
Well,
There you go. And this is a good question right here. And this is, you know, Dean is playing it perfectly well to have a chance, and he's coming with the right answer. Like, I mean, I've said this many times. Look, if I was faced with the same, if I'm living in, you know, Central America, South America, and I have a chance, or I'm in Venezuela and it's getting really bad, you don't think that I would take the shot to take the chance? I mean, we took the chance to have a revolutionary war because you wanted freedom. These people are willing to, and I'm not saying all of them are, but this is the whole point, is that there needs to be some sort of a vetting system, because there's a lot of great people that want to come here, work hard, and just feed their families. But that's not what we've seen recently, Jeff. What we've seen recently are military-age men, single men, no families, no dependents, nothing, coming over the border. And they're coming in from now, you know, North Africa. They're coming in from, you know, Europe. They're coming from all over. It's not just Central America.
We've kind of reached a tipping point, and it's really dangerous. You know, 12 million people, 15 million people. You get to a point where you close in on 10% of the population is illegal. You have a massive issue. You see the downfall of Europe, England, you know, a lot of these countries, because of the massive immigration. But these aren't people that are looking for asylum. And you know that, and they're looking for free handouts. They're looking. They think they're coming over here because the streets are paved with gold. They're promised a bill of goods by the Democrat Party to come over here, and that they're just going to be given all these different things. But to your point, you know, it's military age, young men. They're not coming over here to work. They're not coming over here to embrace the freedoms. They're not coming over here because they have a passion to be in the United States and to set down roots and to become American citizens. They're here to take, and that's it. But it's also a massive, massive security threat, because 10, 12, 15 million people entering the country unchecked, illegal. Nobody knows who they are. Number one rule: you come into the country, come in legally. And this is a massive distinction between, and that's what John Deaton's talking about, massive distinction between him and Elizabeth Warren, because Elizabeth Warren's party is the party that allowed these 15 million people into the country on purpose. They have an agenda. They have an initiative. They know what they're about. And legendary, you know, talking about New York City, you know, it's an illegal nightmare, right? It's not, you know, immigration. There's legal immigration and there's illegal entry into this country. You know, I don't like how we're terming these individuals migrants or immigrants, because they're neither. They're not migrants and they're not immigrants. They're in this country illegally, and it's a massive, massive problem. I saw there's a video of a city council meeting in New York, and he had some of the illegal immigrants that were in the audience, and I'm looking at, and you can't have anything but empathy for them, right? Because there were some women there, and they were talking about they can't live on the streets, right? They need more. They don't have enough. They need money. They need jobs. They need food. And the woman that was talking on the city council said, "I feel real bad for you, but that you were invited here. But it's a hard lesson for you to learn that our streets aren't paved with gold." And she said that too. And this is, you know, the massive concern is that, yeah, these weren't people from Venezuela or South America. They flew from Africa, North Africa, wherever they came from, and now they're sitting in a city council meeting in New York. But you have people from the Middle East, Asia, from China, from India, from you know, from all over, from Africa, from South America, all mass numbers of people that are in this country that shouldn't be here. And it's got to change. It's got to end. And John Deaton is 100% spot on, because it's become a security threat to this country. It's a destabilizing factor for the country. The left wing politics want numbers for census taking purposes, where you can kind of reassess and reassign the number of representatives that you have per area. It's a very, very dangerous game, and it's a disgusting game. Because it is a humanitarian crisis. And for those that are struggling and suffering, we don't want to see them on the streets. We don't want to see them homeless. You have to have empathy. We don't want to see what they're going through to get here. How many of the women or the girls or what are being raped on the way here? It's a horrible, horrible humanitarian crisis that was created by the Democrat Party. And people have to acknowledge it. They have to admit it. They have to take ownership of it, and it has to end. And John Deaton is 100% spot on with that. Now, I'm so glad that he went down there and is, making it a major point.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And, they wear the wristbands too. That means they are going to pay the cartels. Even if they end up working or getting any money, it's going to be taken from them.
Horrible.
And there was no follow-up question to Deaton's, his or any counter saying about when he talked about child trafficking, sex trafficking. It's
Right.
like, that's horrific, right?
Yeah.
But there's nothing like, like just like glazed over it.
Why don't they bring it up? Why don't they talk about it? Why don't they ask?
Found it to be really strange. Like it's very bizarre. Alchemist says he's not a MAGA Republican. Don't get triggered. Saying it to them. But the funny thing is like he's doing the right thing and painting himself the right way. The policies are all MAGA. People have made up all kinds of crap about MAGA. It's a strong border. It's it's all that stuff. It's the same thing.
You see what Legendary is saying. You've seen interviews where they have these illegal immigrants paying $20,000 to $30,000 to get here. Then they get here and they have no money. Obviously, they have to pay to fly, right? So they're getting on a flight, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. And there's a couple of them. Maybe they're paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for flights.
Yeah,
it's not the right thing.
They have no skills. They don't speak the language. They have no connections. They have no money. They're just here to be votes for the Democrats. There you go.
And in Michigan, what's this one? New York City.
Well, he's in New York City. He says in the courts, he works in the court system. He can tell you the migrants are coming here committing crimes and being released over and over. That's the other thing too, is there's no consequences. And this is the funny thing. If you're so this is the latest one. So Biden says, oh, the crime is down. Well, first of all, there is no crime because there's anybody that goes to jail, they get busted out. They don't hold anybody. They basically get released right away. So yeah, there's no crime. There's no reporting crime. So no one's reporting it anywhere. So yeah, I mean, the crime is down, and you can argue the crime is down since the Trump administration, but they're not prosecuting anybody. They're not taking anybody. So it's a vicious game.
And then you get Whitmer, calling them newcomers. I mean,
well, that's the new phrase. They switched it over to newcomers. There's not newcomers. There's no such thing as a newcomer. This one here, city council meetings are hilarious. They were crying the food wasn't good and the apartments and beds were too small.
That's what it was. Yeah, the food wasn't good. They said it was not edible. Oh.
So yeah, not edible. This and that.
All right, let's continue.
Look, Rob, you're late. We're gonna give you a pass, man. You have a note from your mom. Okay, that works.
Did
the dog eat your homework or no? Just want to make sure. Okay, let's put the rest of
the status quo, because I think most people would agree that Congress over the decades has contributed, if not been the major architect of the problems at the border, the problems with immigration, the problem with our migrants. The Republicans had something in front of them that they helped write that would have at least been a step, I think most would agree, in the right direction to addressing issues at the border. It was killed, some think orchestrated. I think even Donald Trump has said by him. What would you have done if you were?
Yeah. So if you want to out your politics, you craft a bill that says you're going to do something about the border when all that stuff's already in place. When they sold the border wall off, when all of that stuff was already paid for. We didn't have $12 billion for the wall, but we had $170 billion to secure Ukraine's border, Jeff. Okay, so this is all nonsense. Yeah. And this is it. This is when you don't do any research. You're not. And when you come into office your first week and you kill the bill that allowed free or low cost access to drugs. Then a
Yeah.
year later, you put it in your own name and you say, like, look at all the great things I've done. Okay, so
Plagiarist.
this is disingenuous right here. This
Of
is how you
course.
out your politics.
Yep.
They had something, they killed it. They didn't want to do anything. They want people to suffer.
Well, we had stay in Mexico. They wouldn't let him in. Border security, border wall. We had everything in place, and they ended all of it. All of it.
But she's going to hide behind this fake bill. That
Right
she
now,
said
all of a
was
sudden, there's
killed.
like, oh, well, there's a bill now, and the Republicans killed it. It's like
Yeah,
it's such bullshit.
Well, not only that, and how you know it's bullshit is that when you say like, "Oh no, it's the border's secure, the border's secure," and then the following week you come out and say, "We have a bill that's going to help secure the border." Well, which is it? Was the border secure, or now are we saying there's a problem? Now there's election time. That's how you out yourself right there.
All right. Let's keep going.
In Senate, would you have been a leader to the Republicans and said, we need to pass this bill? This is a step forward. Joe Biden says he's going to sign it.
Absolutely, I would have supported that bill. It's not a perfect bill, and I'd like to see more done, but it stops the bleeding of the inflow. And so I believe Senator Warren was wrong.
That's incorrect. That bill was going to allow 5,000 people a day to come in.
Right.
It was going to allow all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
I think John answers the question right here.
Yeah.
And saying he would have supported what he's basically saying, he'll still support border security, right?
Right.
And he's
Yeah,
answering the question right, especially to his audience right now. He's answering that right. But and how he said that was, it's not a perfect bill. He knows what's in the bill.
Yep.
But he answers the question very well here. It wasn't a perfect bill because it had some weird things like that in it, right? Where it said it would do good things, but it was doing things in the back end there.
For voting against that bill. I would have voted for it, but what I would encourage them to do is come back with me. Let's go to the border. Let you experience what I experienced, because if you are a decent human being, you're going to come back and you're going to roll up your sleeves. You're going to get the job done. And that's.
I'm laughing only because and not at you, I'm laughing that a number of lawmakers go to the border and stand there and give a speech and then come back to their states, in which you haven't done, and I appreciate that, criminalize the migrants who have come here by calling them illegal immigrants when they're actually here legally and they're not immigrants, they're migrants. How would you work within the Republican Party to have them think more like you?
Well, the first thing, shame.
That's amazing.
That's
That's amazing. The lies, the deception.
They are here
illegally. They're not migrants. Even if they are migrants, what does that even mean? Nothing. They're not here legally. They're illegally here. They didn't come in and seek asylum. And even if, it's a process, you have to come in through a port of entry to seek asylum. These aren't asylum seekers. They came as an invading force of like 30,000 at a time, and it's just an absurd number coming across every single month. For her to say that, again, media, lack of research, lack of facts, lack of knowledge. And, John's going to respond the right way.
Yeah, he did it the right way. He said it wasn't a perfect bill. Yeah, he knows. He knows exactly what's in it. He's read it. Nobody knows better than him. This is good.
On anyone that did what you said, whether they're Republican or a Democrat, this is a humanitarian crisis. And let me tell you, I already had sympathy for the migrants. I can identify being poor, wanting a better life. I listened to my mother cry at night on the nights that we couldn't eat. That stays with you no matter how much money you have in the bank account or no matter which title you have. And then when you go and you experience the trauma they're putting through, women being raped, children being raped, owning this server indebtedness to the cartel for life. They need to come off, get a job so they can make payments to the cartel. And that's what I mean. I don't see how any person, and I blame Republicans, I blame Democrats, how any person could go experience that and not come back and say, we have to secure the border for national security reasons. And this system that we have in place is actually cruel to these people. And that's what I would lead with.
I want to bring it back to your upbringing. You sort of spoke about it there just a moment ago, and we have your book right here, which is Food Stamp Warrior. This is a really interesting look back on your life, of everything that you've gone through, whether it's violence that you experienced in a bad Detroit neighborhood, sexual violence, all these things that you bring up in the book. But I wanted to bring up one specific passage in this. Let's see if I can get it open here.
One specific passage. Let's see what will they choose out of this.
Which one do you think he's going to choose?
see.
You're talking about basically one of your best friends being killed in a drive-by shooting. And at one point you say that I kept squeezing the trigger after this had happened as bullets shot through the car, blasted the black window into shards. I saw a person in the back slump down, and I'm still not sure if it's because I hit him or if he ducked. This is a really frank sort of admission here of that you don't know what took place in that moment. Do you have any regrets writing that, I guess, now that you're running for office?
No, I would never regret the book, and I could tell you why. And you know, I talk about being raped as a child in the book. I don't get emotional so much. I get emotional when we talk about my friend who protected me in that neighborhood. I wouldn't be sitting here at this table if I didn't defend myself and my friend. He had just been shot 4 times, and he died in my arms, and they were coming back. I was 17 years old. This is 40 years ago. They were coming back to finish the job. So I did pick up his weapon, and I did fire it to defend his life and my own life, and then he died in my arms. And so no, I don't regret it. The book is a transparency look at what happens in the kind of neighborhood that I'm from, and so I can tell you, I've had hundreds and hundreds of people come up to me about that book, whether they were exposed to or experienced sexual assault or rape, or they overcame poverty or domestic violence, or any of the things I talk about in the book. And they have tears in their eyes. They tell me it changed their life. So whether I win this election or anything that happens in this election, I will never regret publishing that book.
Well, and I wonder too, I mean, did writing it make you want to run for office? I mean, did sort of letting all this out allow you to feel like you wanted to do that?
I had zero belief or thoughts that I would run for office for writing the book. The book was really about, you know, unexamined trauma. And I'm not sure if you're aware that Senator Warren and the Senate leader made a joke about my book, claiming that I claim to be a tough guy. Actually, that book explains that I'm not so tough, that you can't suppress unexamined trauma and say, well, it happened, so what, move on with it, pick yourself up. That can carry you, that attitude can carry you a long way. And I understand people that do that, but if you don't, that unexamined trauma will come back. And it came back with me. And so the book was a therapy session for me to deal with issues that I didn't deal with for 40 years. You know, my mother was stabbed when I was 6 years old in front of me. I never dealt with it. I didn't deal with the rapes that I went through for 2 years because I said, what can I do to change with it? And I focused on overcoming poverty, and I focused on being a good father, unlike my father. And but then when I accomplished all those goals, all of a sudden that unexamined trauma snuck up on me. And so that's why I say I could never regret that book. You know, whether it cost me the election or any of that, I don't know. It is the truth. I will tell you something that the voters will get with me. They'll get the guy in that book. They'll get someone who's transparent, someone who will be honest, someone who will never say something he doesn't believe in, and a person of his word. And so I think the voters are ready for someone like that.
John Deaton, candidate for U.S. Senate here in Massachusetts. Thanks so much, sir. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Of course.
See you.
Thank you.
Yeah, powerful interview. Really well done. Well done, well handled.
Nice way, really nice way to end the interview. Did a really great job. Really great job.
Jim D says, you know, the immigrants, so-called, are weaponized tools of the NGOs, elite funding sponsors, human and social debt. WMDs used to remove any concept of nationhood and culture through an extortive nihilism. Absolutely spot on. And we saw this happen in Europe. We saw the people that stood up against it. Just look at the 3 major leaders that said there's not going to be any vaccinations in our country. They mysteriously, not even mysteriously, all of them died. Weird, right? How about the one person who ended up getting shot? A leader, got to be careful what you say, but a leader got shot, was one of 3 leaders to stand up in the European Union to say no. And the European Union was really the downfall. This is when they said, you have no sovereign state borders anymore. People can move freely. This is when the real surge started coming in, right? And what I don't understand is if I want to go to France and I want to experience French culture, it's what I want to experience. France doesn't need to let anybody in. Spain doesn't need to let anybody in, right? You go to Spain and you want to experience, you know, the wines, the culture, I mean, a whole thing about any sort of country comes down to language, culture, and borders. You lose your language, okay. You lose your culture, okay. Then you lose your borders. You don't exist anymore, right? What do you stand for anymore? And so when you start seeing this throughout the European Union, where we'll have one currency, I mean, thank God Great Britain said, "You can go to hell. We're not giving up the pound." Good thing that they did it, but they wanted some sovereignty. We're not giving it up. We're not going to use the euro over here. And I look at what Deaton, how he responds to these questions. Very well done. He outclassed them because he knew what was coming. He was very well prepared, and he answered it beautifully.
Great job. Overall, just really, really good job.
This one too. Deaton comes across as calm and a rational guy with no animus towards anyone, just determined to fix the mess we're in. And I thought that played out really well because you saw and they were okay questions, a little bit gotcha. Like, hey, well, tell me about this. Deaton's, he's gonna hit it out of the park. And he said, what you really see in that interview is he does have empathy. I think anybody would have empathy knowing somebody who's gone through a lot and would fight for their family or whatever to do the best thing. But there has to be a process because not everybody thinks that way, right? Not everybody is looking. Some people are looking for an opportunity, like Jeff said earlier, just to take. And this is what gets exemplified when Trump says, it says like, there's not good people coming in. Yeah, well, let's just say out of 12 to 14 million that came in over the last 3 years, let's say 1% are not good. Let's say 0.5%. That's a lot of people, man. 1% of 10 million. It's a lot of folks that aren't there for the right reason. So you got to remember what exactly we're talking about here.
It's probably 10%.
I was being kind, Jeff. I was being kind in a good way, So,
Yep.
But I thought Deaton did a great job there. He certainly crushed it.
Yeah. Look around all the different countries. But yeah, John Deaton crushed it. What's the other video we have put up there? We have a little bit of time. We're going to talk about some projects.
Digital identity is not.
Let's talk a little bit about this digital identity.
Yeah, these are the ID cards. So and we referenced it a little bit yesterday, but this is so important because there's so much conversation about digital assets, digital currency, and now digital IDs. Digital IDs really, really bad, and we're starting to see a change in throughout the EU. Obviously, if Greece is starting to roll it out, Iceland rolled it out, Australia is getting ready to roll out digital ID cards. There's a concern. There are members of parliament around Europe that are starting to wake up to it as well. So, but let's play this video.
Let's play it. Here we go. I love Mark Stein. You can't get enough Mark Stein. He's simply one of the greatest ever to ever. Yeah. He's phenomenal. Hits it out of the park. And this Ava is like something else too. She spoke at the Hungary CPAC, and I think it was Hungary, but she spoke at the CPAC and just blew the lid of the place. They took her video down, which is understandable, Jeff. But she's totally hitting this really right on par. This digital ID, connecting everything, what you're going to do, the whole idea of a carbon credit. If you think about it, Jeff, it's all based on supposedly the science is spoken. It's settled. It's not settled. There's nothing going on. They talk about the CO2. There's a guy out there that talks about the CO2 all the time, saying it's not changed throughout history. It hasn't changed now, that you need a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere. It's just, all they want to do is they want to tax and control. That's it. It's either a tax or it's control. Those are the way they think about it. So getting behind a carbon credit might make people feel good, like they're doing something, which is a lot of these leftist causes where they think, hey, look, I'm doing this. I'm waving the flag. Yay. And they're not doing anything.
And then they do it. They do it in England. They do it in Germany. They do it, they'll come out and protest. And that's why they're asking, like that Greta, what's her name? Nut job. And it's like, why do they always protest in Europe? Go to China. Go to India. Go to the places where they're actually polluting. And they have massive.
But also go there and go to India and ask them why they're not taking in more refugees. Go to India and tell them why won't you take more? Go to Japan and ask them why they won't do it. Go to Russia and ask them why they won't do it. Why don't you go to China? Why they're not? Why isn't China bringing enough people in? This is the kind of demagoguery you see from somebody like a Biden, who was calling. Remember, he was calling all these nations out for their.
Called Japan xenophobic.
Yeah, xenophobic. Japan. Okay. First, by the way, Japan does have a workers program, and they do have. No, that's part of this. Yeah, she's speaking Dutch here, but I'll turn the line around and say it, because hang on a second. Where is this thing? Gosh, I can't even find it now. Is it back here? Who knows, Jeff? I don't know. I don't know where it was.
Up country somewhere can sell his and he can
it openly as if it's
Die uitstootrechten.
And let's ensure that every household and every citizen in the Netherlands receives a certain amount of a carbon credit emission. That way they can ensure that what we do not emit is more than our yearly limit. Your emission rights will be stored in a carbon wallet. So if you want to fly and buy some carbon emission rights from someone else who can't afford to fly, for example.
That's basically what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they put the thing in here, but this is her saying it, though. This is the
Yeah,
poor person.
I know, I get it.
But she look at the way she positioned it. This way, the poor person can earn some extra money. Oh, how very kind of you. That poor person, nice poor person. You can earn some extra money. Or someone living in a small house can sell their emission rights. So someone who lives in a big house can
my
take
God.
advantage of that poor person who can benefit from the green economy.
Oh my
This
God.
this is a cult.
It's
Jeff.
just so stupid.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
It's a cult.
It's amazing to me, the stupidity.
I know. I saw that. Australia.
Man, but so digital ID passed through in Australia. Really, really bad. Hopefully things get better for you guys over there.
Stand up, man. I mean, I don't know. You get punched in the face at some point. When is
At some point you gotta stop getting punched.
when is enough enough? The lockdowns didn't do it. The camps didn't do it. Like the digital ID is them knowing everything you did. Okay, well, we noticed in your digital ID you've got some purchases for a lot of ice cream in there, and we've also noticed from your medical records that you are, a couple kilograms over the approved limit from the government, and well, we're going to just stop that. We're not going to let that digital ID will then enact the CBDC to not allow you to buy any more ice cream or things that aren't good for you, because we know better for you, and freedoms aren't your freedoms. There are freedoms.
Phoenix said, I've waited for 2 years for you guys to drop the news on XRPL without XRPL.
Well, good. You're going to wait another 2 years, Phoenix.
That's true. We'll have to talk about that on Wednesday. That'll be the
Yeah, we'll push it off to Wednesday, Jeff. Wasn't that the thumbnail tonight, though?
It is, yes.
Damn.
It was the thumbnail and the title that we went all in on it, and then went off the rail talking about covering John Deaton.
Well,
So,
I think that was.
but that's all right. That's our hour. But Andrew Smith said we've got digital driver's license already, and everybody loves them. That's the problem. You guys, you love them because they're easy to use, but they're not what's good. I'm big boned.
I'm not overweight. I'm big boned. I'm big boned. There you go. Yeah, I mean, there's but the thing about a driver's license is not everybody gets one. You take a test, you pass the test, you fail the test. I mean, 99% of people do get a license, but again, it's a
Not digital.
yeah. But even if it's digital, what does that mean? It's on your phone. Quite honestly, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to show you mine, but my license has a barcode on the back, and you scan the barcode, and there's all your information.
Right.
It's
But my point, it's not tied into your digital ID, I guess.
right. Well,
Whole
that's the
infrastructure
digital ID is that
that they're trying
everything.
to accomplish.
Right, everything connects to that, right? Your bank account connects to that. Anything you've done can. That's what we were talking about Iceland the other night, where you see everything, full transparency.
Everything.
That's
Every
not-
purchase, everything you've ever done.
Yeah, sounds great.
bad
Doesn't it?
news.
Perfect.
Uh,
Anyway, that's all we
That's
have.
all we got.
It's happening. Deal.
Where's
Yeah.
the project?
No, you push back as much as you can. There's not going to be a CBDC over here. That's all I say. That's what I have to say. So there you go. Anyway, that's all the time we have, guys. We
Where
really
was the
appreciate it. Tune in. You waited 2 years. What's another couple days? I mean,
That's right.
honestly. I mean, really, right?
We'll talk about Monerix maybe on Wednesday. It's a very
Yeah.
cool project. It's over there in Mexico. Very cool. Web3 enhanced payment solution over in Mexico. Be a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Rob McDermott says you guys are depressing with all this truth.
All
Damn.
the truth bombs.
Well, we'll see. Some things have to be said, but that's neither here nor there. You have to
Gold
say
and
it once.
silver. There you go. Let's go back to
Gold and
gold and
silver, baby.
silver.
That's exactly right. Alchemist is spot on right there. The veto deadline. I would imagine the veto happens this week. Now, do you think first? I mean, and the funny thing is
Coming
like
up
this, you
soon.
don't have to die on this hill, right? If you have nonpartisan support for it, and you go ahead and you say, like, thinking about it and talking to, Congress, I've decided to not do that. There you go. Why not? Depression Sunday. Wait for Wednesday. Saturation
Greg is going
Wednesday.
fishing. He's
All right,
out.
good for you,
That's
Greg.
it. See you.
That's awesome. Anyway, that's all the time we have.
That's it.
Glad some of you enjoyed it anyway, the depressing stuff. But anyway, that's all the time we have, right? We are out of here. See you guys on Wednesday, 8:00. There you go. Yeah, well, that happens too. So there you have it, Charles. All of that happens and more. So that's all we have, guys. See you on the next one, Chip and Jeff. Ow.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.